Okay, so the supposed COD killer has arrived, xDefiant. Ubisoft's free first-person shooter has been out for a few weeks now. I've managed to play just over 10 hours of it, and I wanted to give you guys my honest thoughts on the game and see if this is in fact the COD killer a lot of people claim it to be. So xDefiant is a much more simplified game compared to other current gen titles like COD itself, Apex, Destiny, Valorant. You're thrown into a mix of objective-based game modes, playing as characters with different abilities based on their faction, and shooting your way through just over a dozen maps, all of which take inspiration from other Ubisoft titles. If you played Far Cry, The Division, Ghost Recon, Splinter Cell or Watch Dogs before, you'll notice some character designs, abilities and maps will look familiar. There's 5 factions in total. You've got the Cleaners from The Division, they specialise in fire-based equipment. The Echelon from Splinter Cell utilise stealth and intel equipment. The Libertad from Far Cry 6 focus their abilities on healing. The Phantoms from Ghost Recon utilise protection with barriers. And lastly, DedSec from Watch Dogs uses hacking and stunning to gain an advantage over their enemies. Aside from the super ability, you also get 2 secondary abilities to choose from, but I really like this, to be honest. I'm a major fan of some of these games, so it was cool seeing the factions have their own playstyle along with the nostalgic map environments. I was mainly using the Libertad faction to begin with, since I typically run around like a maniac and need the heals, but as soon as I saw how jarring Echelon's intel skill was, I said F it, let me run with these wall hacks instead. It's pretty overpowered provided it's used correctly, like pairing it with Sam Fisher's one-shot pistol. It's like if Recon and Seraph from Black Ops 4 had a baby. Could be on a chopping block for a future nerf, maybe through less pings or a slightly longer cooldown, who knows. But yeah, I'd say right now it's the most popular purely based on its effectiveness. For new players though, I wouldn't be too worried. Most of these abilities can be countered simply by flanking, which isn't too hard to do in a game like this. You can run relatively quickly and move even faster with your pistol equipped. Other secondary abilities and ultimates can also be overwritten by getting higher ground against shields, for example, so I don't think any of them are too overpowered except maybe the sonar goggles, but since that ability doesn't last very long, I think that balances it out. You may find yourself having some bullets left over unless you spam them or catch the enemy off spawn. Other ultimates give you reduced movement speed, so there are handicaps. And of course you have the ones that can disable your abilities and whatnot, but there isn't much you can do about that. If anything, DedSec's spider bot ability is the most feared or annoying because there isn't much you can do once it's stuck on your face. It's a free kill for the enemy until someone shoots it off, which is a rare instance, because from what I've seen, these bots have a lot of HP, unless I was accidentally damaging my teammate's shield here. I don't know, I could be wrong. I'm aware grenades count as friendly fire, but I'd like to think you can shoot through bubble shields, not just the regular ones. Overall though, I like the uniqueness of these abilities. I think most of them are fine as they are. Just to note though, the DedSec faction isn't available when you start out. There's 2 ways you can unlock it, by farming 700,000 XP or simply purchasing it with in-game currency. It costs 1,000 coins, which is about £8 or so, not that expensive in my opinion, but I will be going with the free option. I mean, if you can unlock it for free, why not do it that way? I'm in no rush to get it as good as their abilities are. You know, it will be a bit of a grind, which is pretty much the premise of this game, but I think the other 4 factions are enough to mess around with by the time I unlock DedSec. I'm not sure how people feel about this. The game is free after all, so Ubisoft have to make their money some way, and if that means locking out a faction behind a paywall or XP grind, so be it. I think the best of both worlds is fair on this, a free and paid option for the core items of the game. It would be way more frustrating if you could only unlock these things by spending actual money. I'm just hoping that if they add more factions in the future, there is an option to grind it out for free. The paid cosmetics and skins I don't have an issue with, I'm just waiting to find something I really like, so eventually I could end up spending a little on this game anyway. But yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about the free grinding options. Now in terms of the gameplay itself, as I said, it's relatively simple, easy to get the hang of. There's 5 objective game modes which will be very familiar for COD players. You've got Domination, Hotshot, which is like kill confirmed, Zone Control where you take turns capturing a point, Occupy, which is basically hardpoint, and a personal favourite of mine, Escort, where you have to move a bot from one point of the map to another. Depending on the mode you're in, there will be a bit of a respawn delay, but that's nothing new. You actually get a countdown with this game, which can make you spam the respawn button if you're impatient like me. Black Ops 4 was definitely the game that made me like Escort. I thought this was very fun. I guess the slight difference is that COD's version allows you to disable the robot by shooting it, which buys you some time, whereas in xDefiant you can't damage it. However, if it's left unattended for a long period of time, it starts to retreat very slowly. I think this is a little too slow, almost to the point where it's ineffective. You know, the attacking team can easily get it back to its original position. Other people may feel different, but I personally think the retreating speed could be a little faster. If we were to compare, I would say xDefiant is a little harder when defending. All you can do is keep enemies away from the robot and wait for it to start retreating. Whereas in Black Ops 4, keeping enemies off the robot will prevent progression, but the ability to disable it will hold them up even longer, which can make life a little more stressful for the attacking team. The robot retreating in xDefiant is still an issue, but since it moves back very slowly, it's more like a minor inconvenience, provided your team doesn't take too long to recover and get back to escorting the bot. In terms of the gunplay, it plays just like a regular FPS game. If you played FPS games before, you shouldn't have any trouble getting the hang of it quickly. Aiming felt a little off at first, so I'd say it took me 5 matches or so before I started getting used to the sensitivity. After that, the gameplay felt a lot smoother. There's a small selection of weapons, around 20 or so, spread between ARs, SMGs, shotguns, LMGs, pistols and sniper rifles, most of which require a challenge to be completed before you can unlock them. I can't really disclose how I felt about the difficulty of the challenges, because when I started playing I didn't research what they were, I didn't pay attention to any of that. I just played the game and they unlocked as the matches went by. I think for me it's better I don't read too much into challenges, because if I see the requirements for a gun I really want, I'll adopt an unusual playstyle which isn't characteristic of how I typically play to accommodate for said challenge, if that makes sense. It will just ruin the whole flow for me, but looking at them now, they're relatively easy. Most are just doing a certain amount of damage, long shot kills, point blank kills, headshots, and I primarily used SMGs and ARs anyway, so there wasn't much for me to unlock. The MP7 and AK-47 have been great for me so far. I think the MP7 is meta at this point, so it could potentially bring around some future nerfs, who knows, but I'd say try them all. I think there's enough options in general, but snipers and shotguns are lacking. There isn't much available for these at the moment, but I can imagine they'll add some more in the future. There is one AR which can be bought with real money or unlocked in the battle pass for free, but as expected it does take a while to level up. The game also provides you with a small variety of tacticals and explosives, provided you completed the challenges behind them. They're all very effective, especially since it's a one-time use per respawn. I've fallen victim to proximity mines, we all know how that goes, and flashbangs, well, they definitely do their job because you cannot see anything. I think the hardest thing with this game is starting out with stock weapons. I had a bit of trouble with the M4. It felt a bit clunky, but the attachments you unlock as you level up start to help the gun feel a bit better based on your needs. The attachments are again a grind in themselves, but you appreciate them more once you actually unlock them. And on the topic of this, I want to say xDefiant is a little more generous with the pro to con ratio for attachments. Maybe 40 to 50% of options available have pros that outweigh the cons, so depending on what you choose, you're not having to debate with yourself on which cons you'd rather suffer with or which ones are more bearable. The ultra abilities do take a while to charge. Even on my best games I could barely use it once, maybe twice. It only charges based on kills and objective related tasks, so you'd be surprised. Not everyone ends up using theirs in a match. It isn't generous where it passively charges as you play or if you're idle. This I'm okay with because it encourages people to try harder, actually play the objective, and players will actually activate it at crucial moments like when pushing the OBJ, since you might not be able to use it again in that match. Who knows, they could make adjustments to this in the future, but either way, I'm not fussed. If we're going to compare this to any COD, I'd say xDefiant is most similar to Black Ops 4. You know, Black Ops 4 had the health bars, a mix of operators with different primary and secondary abilities, similar game modes like Escort and Safeguard, which mirror that of xDefiant, so I can kind of see the resemblance. However, a really random game that comes to mind is Ironsight. I don't expect many people to know what this game was. It's a free-to-play first-person shooter that released in 2018. It's been a few years since I played it, but it was surprisingly good. I think gameplay-wise it looked similar to xDefiant as well. I was a jobless youth back then, so I had to roll with the free games. But this fulfilled my need for a game similar to COD. I had a lot of fun with that. I did play the beta for xDefiant, and at the time I was having a lot of hit reg issues. There'd be engagements where I thought I was hitting my shots, but the game wasn't logging it, so that was a pain. I think they fixed that, so my gun battles feel a lot better. The only issue now is I sometimes find myself being shot round corners. I don't think I'm the only one with this issue. I believe other players said this was a netcode problem, so what I see from my perspective will be very different to the enemy player I'm fighting, which is kind of jarring, but the game game hasn't been out long, I don't know if this will fix itself or if it is fixable. I might have to roll with the punches on this one, but at least I'm not lagging. It could be a lot worse. This being shot around the corners thing doesn't happen often enough for it to be a major problem. Players did also mention some server issues on launch day. I didn't play on day one, I think I played a day or two after and thought I was having the same problem.
Bro, why am I lagging? Bro, why am I lagging?
Contested. Protect the zone. Securing the zone.
But luckily this wasn't a server issue, my Wi-Fi just crapped out that day as I tested it on COD and got the exact same result.
Hostile UAV in the area. Counter UAV is active.
Counter UAV! Shots fired! Enemy fighter here! Fighter here!
Lost the lead.
The game also has a few little bugs in there, nothing game changing, but there is one that's kinda funny. When the match ends, in the background you'll see player models are still running in place. They'll even do this while the final match results are showing. At first glance it's confusing, then more so laughable. And speaking of final match results, xDefiant highlights key performances from players at the end of every game. Starting with the MVP, which I believe is calculated based on which player got the most points across both teams. Then you have individual achievements for other players from things like points on the objective, who got the most kills with a certain weapon, long shot kills, damage blocked, who took the least damage and so on. For players who I guess you could say are having a rough game, xDefiant still likes to give them their props for their efforts anyway. I had a friend who doesn't usually play FPS games, but they still did their best and the game definitely recognized that.
What nigga, you laughing?
Okay, so with all this considered, is xDefiant the COD killer? In my opinion, no. I think there's only one title that can kill COD, and that's COD.
Only I get to kill you.
The past few games have been a bit controversial. Well, actually the most recent ones, MW2, MW3 and Warzone, got some really negative ratings on Steam, but the others have been either mixed or good. Even Vanguard, which was considered one of the worst Call of Duties in the past few years, still sold over 30 million copies. It can be a buggy mess with massive file sizes, which I think is still ridiculous, but the point is, people are still playing it and watching it. So regardless of whatever FPS shooter releases in the coming years, I think Call of Duty will be alright. Don't get me wrong, xDefiant had a great launch, with numbers reaching 700,000 to 1 million players on day one I believe, and I think the two most important aspects when comparing it to COD is that it's free to play and there's no skill-based matchmaking, which was heavily frowned upon by a lot of players in the COD community, so people can now play a game where they aren't always having to fight the sweat lords of COD after one good match, or at least that's what I understood from players' perception of it. These are some strong feats which will be appreciated by many. I think it's a breath of fresh air, especially if you have played COD and you're not a fan of the skill-based matchmaking, so hopefully they can maintain a strong fan base with consistent updates. If they do, I think they'll be just fine as well. I believe COD and xDefiant can coexist, at least in my eyes. You know, I'm not going to stop playing one just because the other doesn't have skill-based matchmaking or for whatever other reason, you know. The only downside running xDefiant as a free-to-play player is that everything is a grind, so I'd say be prepared for that, just a whole lot of XP farming. And I think despite their similarities with Call of Duty, these games are still different and I prefer them that way. People have been asking for kill streaks, trophy systems, a battle royale mode, and to be honest, I don't think they need all that. I'd say let them do their own thing. If they end up adding it, cool, that's fine, but we can maintain some differences. I don't think we need a straight copy and paste COD. Just recently they rolled out a patch for movement penalties to reduce jump spamming, or in other words bunny hopping, so you can kind of see that they're trying to adopt a style separate from COD. However, I can agree that kill cam should be added. It does go hand in hand with the cool feature that allows you to react to players killing you with emojis, and also I want to see how I died. How did this guy kill me so fast? But aside from leveling up to unlock DedSec, leveling up guns to acquire attachments and weapon skins, there isn't much else to kind of go for. After doing all that, it's just mindless fun until you get bored, so it'll be interesting to see what updates they release in the future to keep us coming back. For those of you still using Twitter, you may have seen the Twitch viewer comparisons for xDefiant and Warzone, then over time xDefiant's viewers slowly dropping after a few days. to which people would say, you know, COD is dead or xDefiant is dead. To be honest, I'm not even sure why it's being compared to Warzone in the first place. That's a battle royale game. xDefiant is strictly multiplayer, so I don't think they're in a position to be compared as such. MW3 is a better comparison, but even in all this, I think we have to understand that xDefiant has only just released, so naturally there'll be a lot more players watching and showing interest, as opposed to MW3, which has been out for around 6 or 7 months now. And within this period, a lot of other games have come out: Final Fantasy, Infinite World, Stellar Blade, Helldivers 2, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, just to name a few popular ones. But the point is, people are going to flock elsewhere in terms of watching and playing games. And the same thing is going to happen with xDefiant. There's going to be some hot titles releasing stuff later this year and early 2025. Destiny's The Final Shape is already out, Elden Ring has a massive expansion dropping soon. The Xbox Showcase revealed a bunch of new games like the new Doom and Gears of War, so the numbers dropping is expected, but I don't think the viewership alone you see on Twitch should dictate whether a game is dead or not. xDefiant's viewership droppage could be caused by many things other than what I already mentioned. Maybe people wanted to watch some gameplay first, then decide if they want to try it out for themselves. Or the reason for its high viewership could be because the game is strictly next gen. You know, you'd have to own a PC or next gen console to play it. Now, I can't speak for Xbox players, but I've been made aware that at least half of PlayStation owners still haven't upgraded to PS5. So there's a big chunk of potential people that would not be able to play the game, hence them watching it on Twitch instead. You know, there's a bunch of reasons. Overall though, I'm usually on the fence with these sorts of things. I don't really pick sides when it comes to gaming. I'm open to trying most games. I've even tried the worst of the worst, but I'd rather they all do well in their own right. xDefiant has big plans coming soon with more factions and game modes, so I'm hyped for that. As a matter of fact, Season 1 was recently revealed and will be dropping very soon, so there's a lot to look forward to. Call of Duty recently revealed Black Ops 6, and I'm a zombies fan, so I'm also excited to see what they do there. The Black Ops series always do their zombies well in my opinion, so fingers crossed the game is well received. I'm hoping that these games are a success for the next COD and xDefiant despite the issues they may have now. You know, I think everyone should eat good. I mean, I'm going to be playing both provided Black Ops 6 is decent, so let's sit back and hopefully let these developers cook. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think of the game in the comments or anything I spoke about, but I hope you guys enjoyed. It's been Dre, take care and see you next time.